Let's get started. So, thank you everyone for joining today's roundtable. This is a student alumni roundtable focusing on the MA in Clinical Psychology Daytime program. So thank you so much for joining us, the program director, alumni, career services, students, and prospective and current students. So the purpose of the roundtable is so that our current students and prospective students have an opportunity to connect with the program director, who is also faculty, and meet some of our alumni. And you'll be able to ask questions, discuss current program studies, receive tips on how to transition from student to graduate, and then examine next steps after graduation. I am Dr. Renee Dorn, GSEP Director of Alumni Relations, and the rest of our alumni relations staff who will be assisting us today are Sophia Henriquez, our alumni relations analyst, and Alexis Golston, who is our graduate assistant. Now, to the current students and prospective students, during this roundtable, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat or the Q&A, either one. And we'll make sure to ask those questions so the program director and alumni will be able to answer them for you, okay? So it is so wonderful that we have with us today our MA in Clinical Psychology Daytime Program Director and Professor, Dr. Kathleen Eldridge. And we also have our Associate Director of Career Services, Nadine Surratt. So welcome to both of you. And at this time, I always am pleased to acknowledge our wonderful alumni. And they always take time out of their schedules to participate in all of our GSEP events. And today we have 3 alums from the MACLP Daytime program joining us. And they are Tasha Campbell, Caitlin Vilkin, and Shreya Jain. So thank you so much for joining us today. And at this time, I want to introduce our program director, Dr. Kathleen Eldridge, so she can tell us a little bit about the MA in Clinical Psychology Daytime program and discuss any new things that are coming up within the program. So I'm passing it on to you, Dr. Eldridge. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Dr. Dorn, for arranging this. Welcome, everyone. It's so great to see our fantastic alums and staff here. And welcome to all of you, prospective and current students. So I have been here 20 years. I've been teaching in this program all that time. And then about a year ago, became the program director as well. So this is a program that's very special to me. It is a full-time daytime in-person program. So our students are here in classes 2 days a week, and then they're also working in their field work or practicum placements on their other days. So they're getting a combination of classroom learning plus clinical experience side by side, which is a really effective way for building skills as a therapist. Our program is designed to meet the requirements for licensure in California as a licensed marriage and family therapist and a licensed professional clinical counselor. And it is a cohort-based program. So all our students start together, they take all their classes together in a pre-planned fashion. And so we are a close-knit program. We are in our own building. This is our building here in the picture behind me. And we are very fortunate to have that environment because it really fosters sort of a home away from home feeling, that we're all here in the building together. And we have a dedicated academic advisor here for our students. We have a dedicated clinical training team here for this program. And so our students are very well cared for as whole individuals. It is an intensive program because it's full-time, daytime. And so we are all here to kind of support each other. We're not all exactly the same, but we are united by a collective mission and a collaborative culture here. We are on the Malibu campus, so we're in the kind of graduate and professional schools area, where the business school and the School of Public Policy are also here. So we have a nice campus. It has a cafe, it has a technology center and a library. And it's also, here on the main Pepperdine campus as well. So our students are nearby to all the amenities of the main Pepperdine campus as well. So the amenities, the entertainment, the counseling center, the health center, on-campus housing, and it's just a beautiful place to be. So that's a little bit about the program.
That's wonderful. Thank you. I wanted to ask one question, and you probably already answered it, but we at GSEP, we have the daytime MACLP program, we have the online MACLP program, and then we have the MACLP program for the Latinx communities. So could you tell us sort of like the difference with the daytime program as compared to the other two?
Absolutely. So, one difference is that we're here in person. So none of our classes are online. They're all here in person. The other difference is that our classes are held during the day, whereas our evening format program classes are held in the afternoon and evening. And our classes are on a preset basis. So our students, we give them the whole curriculum and enroll them in the classes along the way. Whereas in these other programs, you can pick and choose when you want to take your classes and which classes you're going to take. And you can choose sort of your own length of time, whereas our program is designed to be completed in 2 years' time. So those are some of the main differences that I would say. And then location, obviously, we are at the Malibu campus, and these other programs are either online or at our other Southern California campuses like Calabasas, West LA, and Irvine.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Eldridge. I'm going to come back to you in a minute. And then, so next I'd like to introduce Nadine Surratt, and she is our Associate Director of Career Services. And so Nadine, if you could just tell us a little bit about Career Services and how you're able to help our current students, and then once they graduate, once they become alumni.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here today. This program, the MACLP program, is so near and dear to me because I'm also an alum, in addition to working here at Career Services. So definitely had a great experience, and I'm happy to be back to share a little bit about how Career Services can support you, because it's definitely an underutilized resource. But Pepperdine is actually really unique because each school at Pepperdine has its own Career Services team. So that means you at GSEP have a dedicated team consisting of myself and my executive director, Yas Hardaway, as well as a few other colleagues on the team. We're here to help you and support you so we can provide really unique, personalized support for your journey through grad school and beyond, because all of our services at Career Services are available to you even as alums. So that's actually pretty rare, from what I've experienced at least. Most schools don't offer that to their alums, but we're really happy to provide you with really lifelong support. And that does set us apart. So a little bit about kind of our approach. Our mission is really to provide you with the confidence, clarity, and community on your career journey. So we're really big on those three things. And we have several different types of services that we offer, which I'll explain in just a moment. But the best way to access everything about Career Services is through Handshake. So Handshake might sound familiar if you went to an undergraduate institution that used the platform. We have it here at Pepperdine, and it's basically our hub for all your resources, for any events that are happening, for how to make appointments. It's all there on Handshake, and you can access Handshake through your WaveNet, or I can just put the link in the chat really quickly. 1 second. Oh, never mind. You already got it. Thanks, Sophia. You're quick on that. I should know better. Awesome. So she already has it in the chat for you all. But feel free to take a look. And like I said, you still have access to Handshake once you graduate as an alumni, but you'll notice on Handshake, we have 2 types of appointments. So I'll really quickly explain the difference between the two. One of them is called a career design session, and these are hour-long, more like counseling sessions. But in these sessions, we really support students in maybe clarifying your goals, developing an action plan, creating a strategy for your career, for your job search, whatever it might be. We also can support you in networking, interviewing prep, kind of navigating your workplace dynamics, things like that. So those are more in-depth sessions to support you. And our second type of appointment is called I'm blanking because we just changed the name of it. It's a document feedback session now. It used to be called something else. But for our document feedback sessions, it's pretty much what it is. We provide you feedback on your resumes, your cover letters, your CV, maybe a job application, some questions that might come in it. If you need another pair of eyes to help you answer that, we can support you in that. So these are 30-minute sessions. They're a little bit shorter, quicker, straight to the point. And all of our appointments, whether they're the career design or document feedback, are offered virtually. So it's pretty accessible. But we also offer in-person support if you prefer an in-person appointment at all of our different campuses. So that's great too. Other than that, like I said, feel free to reach out. I can put our general email address in the chat if, let's see. I'll type it in the chat in just a moment, but we're more than happy to help you. We always say come early and often. It's never too early to visit career services, and we can just support you on your journey. So thanks.
Thank you, Nadine. That is some wonderful information. So if you ever need to get in touch with career services, Nadine will have her information in the chat. All right. Thank you. Thank you. And now at this time, I'd like to introduce our alumni speakers. And for each alum, I want to get started by asking them to tell us a little bit about their background and why they decided to select the MA in Clinical Psychology daytime program. So welcome to Tasha Campbell, Caitlin Vilkin, and Shreya John. So welcome, and I'm going to start with Tasha. So Tasha, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then why did you select the daytime program?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm excited to be here. I graduated this program in 2019 and worked in various settings. I worked in a school setting and then in a treatment program, and now have my own private practice in Westlake, where I see kids and expecting parents. I'm focusing on getting a certification on perinatal mental health. But I chose this program. I think one of the big pieces that was intriguing for me was the cohort-based program, really being connected to my other colleagues in the program, the other students, and I still am super connected to them. I just saw a couple last weekend. It's really a great way to network and be able to create connections beyond the program. So that was a really big piece for me that I really enjoyed. And just also, I think being on campus, on the Malibu campus, was a really nice way to connect with everybody. And I really liked the resources in comparison, I guess, to maybe not the other Pepperdine programs, but just other graduate programs in the area that we got to pick our practicum placement. That was really important for me. So that way I could kind of focus on things that I wanted to specialize in, like working with children. And overall, I really enjoyed my time there. So yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Tasha.
Of course.
And Caitlin, tell us a little bit about yourself and then why you selected the daytime program.
Wonderful. Well, good afternoon, everyone. So my journey was a little different. I also, Tasha, Shreya, and I are actually all the same class. So we all graduated in 2019. Different cohorts though. Well, Shreya and I were the same. But I took a hiatus after undergrad for about 5 years and got to actually work in our field. I worked at a children's hospital up in Washington. And so when I was looking for master's programs, it was really important for me to kind of not just sit in a classroom for a year or two before I'd ever get to see a patient again. I was doing patient work already, and I am someone that the hands-on part is kind of what draws me to this field, the human interaction. And so just kind of sitting in a place where we're only learning about theory was not going to work for me. And so I was really intentional in looking for programs that would put me in front of another human sooner rather than later. And so at the Malibu program, we started seeing patients 5 months in. Like, so our first semester really gears you up. I feel like it's kind of like a fast moving car. Once you get in and put your foot on the gas, you just kind of go. And it was a really intentional choice for me. I felt very supported and prepared by the time kind of January came around, and they were like, okay, so you've interviewed for these different practicum sites, you selected one, and now you're going to see a patient and or a student or client or whatever the site called our kiddos. Similar to Tasha, I also focused on working with children and adolescents. And then a bigger point for me too was I really wanted to go to the PsyD program that Pepperdine offered. And Pepperdine is really different in that our PsyD program, you have to have a master's to apply. And so in my great thinking, I was like, wait a second, if they have a master's program too, that feels like it'd be a really good fit. And so that was kind of part of my journey. I am now finishing up my my doctorate with the Pepperdine program, and I start my internship at UCLA this fall. So I think it's kind of lovely, full circle. And I think Pepperdine really, our master's program really prepared us for that. I think one of the things too that I loved about it, and I actually think I remember talking to Shreya about it back in the day, was just how prepared we felt and how kind of when we would be paired with kind of other people from various schools that were also at the sites we were at, that we felt we had answers to things that others didn't. We felt that our professors very much set us up for success, and that didn't take away the anxiety or the fact that we still weren't really sure if we wanted to be therapists. Like, that was still there, but the answers kind of were there as well, just because of how well we were prepared. But yeah, so thank you so much for having me today. So
thank you, Caitlin, and congratulations to you. That's
Thank
exciting. Yes. Now, Shreya, tell us a little bit about your background, and also tell us where you're located and what you're doing.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me here. So I am currently based out of India. I am from India, and one of the biggest reasons why I chose Pepperdine was the fact that from the minute I reached out, I reached out via email, and there was so much there's so much that was already being offered to me before I even chose to apply, in terms of diversity, in terms of just accommodating my needs or accommodating me as an international student. And I was really far away from home, so that was a really big decision for me to make. And like Dr. Eldridge talked about home, away from home, I think that sort of summed up my experience completely while I was there for 2 years. Another reason why I chose this program was because of the cohort system. I grew up in smaller classrooms. I've learned that way my entire life, and that was something that was really important for me, especially for my graduate degree. And I think it was one of the best decisions I made, because it gave me so much space to grow and learn, and also to sort of create very valuable relationships, not only with their peers, but also with the professors, because there was just so much space there. So overall, I think my experience there has been really, really beautiful. I got a great opportunity to work with something that I feel very passionate about, that is trauma, and I'm currently continuing to do that work. My practicum site sort of gave me such a huge base to learn about domestic violence, sexual assault. I worked with perpetrators and survivors, and it was really tough, but I think it was exactly the kind of training that I felt that I needed to sort of start off my journey into being a therapist. Here in India, I have my own practice, and I inculcate a lot of what I learned there in class and as well on site. And I still continue to work with trauma, with different types of trauma, with everything that's around me in the country that I live in. But I think I wouldn't have been able to do that without my training in at Pepperdine, and because of all the help I received from my professors and my peers alike. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for joining. One of the things that a couple of you mentioned were practicum sites. So could you talk to us a little bit about what those practicum sites are and how did you select them, or were you selected to be at certain sites? How does that work? So Kate, I'm going to start with you because you had mentioned that first. So talk a little bit about the practicum sites.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I was also a graduate assistant for the Malibu program. So I got to see kind of both sides of it. But essentially what happens is during our first semester, we have a class that's called Preparation for Practicum. And what they do is they help us set up our resume. They help us kind of talk through how to be a professional in the field. And from there, we are given kind of a list of practicum sites in Los Angeles. When I stopped being a GA, I feel like our list was like 157 sites. Like it was pretty robust, and that was a couple of years ago. So I think it's continued to grow. And we then were to take that list and pick, I think it was at least 10 at the time. This could change. And then we applied as if it was a normal job. So we weren't given anything. And a lot of times you were applying with the people sitting to the right and left of you. And sometimes the person to the right of you would get a nice email saying like, you have an interview. And you were like, oh, I guess I didn't get an interview there. Okay, that's kind of, how it goes. But I think one of the best parts about that is some of our counterparts at other schools were just given sites. They were like, here, this is where you're going. And we kind of got to learn the lesson of how do you apply to a job? How do you go to an interview? What does that look like? And so that's also built into our practicum experience. And our practicums span the gamut. So children and adolescents, to trauma, to school-based sites, which I mean is more children and adolescents, to kind of more general population, to different sites that kind of specialize more in certain theories. So I know some of my classmates were really interested in psychodynamic, and there was a particular site where that was how everything was based, was from that one theory, and that's how supervision was given, and so on. So it was kind of like if you had an interest, whether it was veterans, addiction, eating disorder, whatever it was, you met with our one of our I don't know the title, training clinic coordinators, something along those lines, and you got to talk about what you wanted to do. Oftentimes, thank you, clinical training coordinator. Sorry, my coffee has still not kicked in. And you got to tell them what you were passionate about. And then from there, you kind of made a list and then applied. But I think for the most part, everyone kind of got what they wanted. And if not, I mean, everyone was convinced you were not going to get a site. That was a lovely part of our anxiety training at the beginning. But our training coordinators are amazing at what they do. And sometimes if you needed a little extra help or needed to apply to a couple more, they were always willing to help. And I think it just speaks to kind of the Pepperdine culture is you're not in this alone. You're never in this alone. And so if you need help, you need more support, all you have to do is ask.
See, now that's good to know. That's good to know that at least for the daytime program, they have a listing where you can select where you are interested in going. So Shreya, was that your same experience, that you were able to select the practicum site that you wanted to go to, or at least apply to?
Yes, yes, with everything that Kate talked about. Another thing that I remember doing was I spoke to a lot of folks in the class, like our seniors, people who were in their second year of the daytime program. And I had shortlisted some sites because I wanted to work with something very specific. And I spoke to a bunch of people who were already working there, their experience, and if that was something that I could do, if that was something that I couldn't do. And they were really helpful in sort of giving out that information, because that really helped me narrow down my narrow down the number of sites that I wanted to apply to. So that was also another way that I chose my site.
I see. Okay. Now, Tasha, what about you and the practicum site that you worked at?
Yeah, I agree with everything they both just said. I think something else along the lines that I feel the professor who was doing my practicum class was talking about is that we're as much interviewing the site as they're interviewing us, and knowing that we are totally have the space to advocate for the type of supervision we want, the type of training we want. And that was a big thing for me going in, is that I really wanted to make sure that I felt like my training site was supportive and would provide a lot of training for me, because I know that a lot of people in my cohort had a lot of what is it called? Now I can't think of the word, where I guess a lot of anxiety about being a new therapist and what that would be like, and really wanting a space where we can feel comfortable and growing into that role. And so, yeah, I felt very supported throughout my whole practicum experience, and also, past the interviewing process, when we would have practicum imposter syndrome. Thank you, Jane. Where our practicum instructors would always check in to make sure we're getting adequate supervision and making sure that we felt comfortable with that. So I think that was a big piece that was really helped me feel safe there too.
Oh, that's good. That's good to know too. Now, for all the students here, if you have any questions, let us know. If you want to, just use the hand raise and you can go ahead and ask. Or if you want to put your question in the chat or the Q&A, you can do that at this time. Dr. Eldridge, I wanted to ask you, since we were talking about practicums and even the classes, what should the students expect when it comes, since you're also part of the faculty, what should the students expect being in class? How long are the classes? What types of classes will they be taking within the daytime program? Things of that nature. What should they expect?
Great questions. Yeah. And let me add before I get into that too, that our practicum process has become even more streamlined. In recent years, we now have a software program called Tavera. So all the information about all our sites is there in that program, and the students can search for the kind of sites they're looking for. They can get all the information about what kind of supervision, what are the hours, when is the training, and they also have access to all of the prior students or students who are currently there, their evaluations of the site. So they have lots of information about what is it actually like working at this site for other trainees. So it's a really helpful shift that we've made, that all of that is available now. You don't need a big binder of site information anymore. We have it all electronically stored. So that was one thing I wanted to mention. And then in terms of our classes, most of our classes are 3-unit classes. It can range from 1 to 3, and each class is held once a week, except in the summer session. Classes are held twice a week because it's accelerated in the summer. And, so classes are typically 9 to 12 and 1 to 3:50 on the days that students are here for classes. And I think someone had maybe Sophia had put a lot of information in the chat about the class schedule. And then we have a really nicely rounded curriculum. So we don't specialize in one particular approach or one particular population, but it's designed to give a really good foundation in to become a generalist practitioner, and then students can specialize from there or through the work at their practicum sites. So they get a full complement of classes in theories and techniques, couple and family therapy, substance use, trauma, working with children and adolescents, psychopharm, human sexuality. So it's a great curriculum, really well-rounded, really full. We're always making sure that we're meeting all the criteria that the Board of Behavioral Sciences requires of our students. So for example, they recently indicated that they, for licensure students, will need to have 3 hours of instruction on telehealth. So we made sure that we put that in the curriculum. A few years back, they decided everyone needed to have training in suicide assessment and intervention. So we made sure our curriculum had that. So we're always really making sure our curriculum is updated and integrating everything that students are going to need for licensure.
Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent. So it's good to know that you're constantly updating what is necessary for the students. So that's wonderful. It looks like we have some questions. So Sophia, I'm going to pass it on to you for the questions.
Yes, thank you so much to all of our panelists. We have a question from Rolanda, so you can unmute yourself and go ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you for taking my question. So I actually wanted to piggyback on Tasha's comment that she said where we're kind of evaluating the program as well. And I think I agree with that very much. So I wanted to ask what criteria should we be using in that evaluation? What suggestions do you have, being on that side of the journey, that we should be thinking of on this side? What unknowns? Do you, I'm open. Tell me.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think some of the most important things to ask, practicum sites is what their supervision looks like on the day-to-day basis. When you have a client that's in crisis, and this might be one of your first times experiencing that, how available are they to answer your call? What does it look like as far as how they provide feedback to you on, your sessions with your clients? And how often do they do trainings? How often are they checking in with you as far as how comfortable you're feeling while seeing some of your first clients? And how does it kind of range from when you first start practicum towards the end when you're a little bit more independent? Like, how do they manage giving you the support, but then also giving you the responsibility to kind of take some new stuff on and see how it goes? So I think that's, some of the most important things to ask them. And also some of the things that I also like to ask is, after practicum, is there any career opportunities? Is there anything, how can you support me after I graduate? Like, what are some continued ways that I can stay connected in here, or that I can continue to grow within the practicum site as well?
Thank you so much for that, Tasha. We also have another question regarding being an international student currently working on bachelor's and master's diploma evaluation. So the student asks, once I receive my grades/classes, with whom can I schedule an appointment to discuss my option with Pepperdine University's master's/PhD program? So for the PhD program, I'll go ahead and put the email for who you can contact, but we actually have Kelly Hill with us today. She's the enrollment officer for the daytime program. So at this time, Kelly, I just want you to introduce yourself and maybe explain to the students how they can schedule an appointment with you. And thank you so much.
Yeah, you can easily schedule an appointment with me. If you've ever gotten an email from me, there's a link below my signature line. You can also find my appointment scheduler on the website. And I'm happy to, Sophie, if you want to provide me with a list of attendees, I'm happy to reach out to anyone directly as well. Yeah, so we do have evaluation services that we recommend that are listed on the website. West is one of the top ones that we recommend. So I'm happy to answer questions on that as well. So please feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you, Kelly. So at this time, you can also unmute yourself to ask any more questions to our panelists, or also put them in the chat or the Q&A section as well. I just thank you so much for being here, and this is your time as well. So feel free to ask any question you may have.
Let's see. At this time, I want to go ahead while people are putting questions in the chat. I want to ask Nadine about services regarding once a student graduates and say that they have gone through their practicum and now they're looking for employment. So how can career services help the students at this point?
Yeah, that's great. And I'm glad you asked that. So a couple of things. I know I mentioned we have appointment options, and those are always available to you. So I think that's the first thing I would just reiterate is if you're getting close to graduation, and we always say again, come early, you don't have to wait till after you've graduated. Like, let's just say you're approaching graduation, you're gearing up for, your job search, and you're starting to think through what you want to do afterwards. Feel free to schedule a career design session, because we can walk through that with you, help you kind of map out what you're looking for, maybe give you some strategies, some ideas for where to look and how to look. And I would also say another thing that we do specific for our MACLP students is an event called SciConnect. We actually just launched it for the first time this year, and we had it last Friday. But basically, it's kind of like a virtual career fair almost, where employers in the mental health field who are looking to hire new graduates to be therapists, they come and they attend the event, and you're able to have either a one-on-one with them or be in a group session with other, students or alums who are looking for a job, to ask them about their openings, to get information about their organization, to build a connection with the employer. And to apply if you're interested. So that's another thing specific for our psychology graduates. So I would keep that in mind for next year. It'll probably be around the same time in June-ish, May or June. And that's a great opportunity to get some job leads. And then besides that, we always have, we have another kind of like something that goes out every 2 months called Who's Hiring Now, where we actually interview an employer, ask them some questions about what they're looking for, and how someone can stand out to them. And we've had a couple so far already that are mental health specific who are looking to hire therapists. So that's another opportunity to kind of keep your eye out, stay on the lookout for that, because these people are specifically wanting to hire Pepperdine grads. And that's why they're doing these like Who's Hiring Now interviews with us. So we want to definitely connect you with jobs. Those are a few things that come to mind off the bat.
Okay, that's wonderful. That's good. I also wanted to ask, if you are an international student and you're trying to find employment, how will career services be able to help in that situation?
Yeah, that's also a really good question, because it is a little bit different for international students. So we still provide all the same exact support, if not a little bit more, because the international student situation is a little bit different. After they graduate, international students have something called OPT, where they can work for a year. So we can support you in securing an OPT position so that you're able to stay here in the States if you want and work here. And then besides that, there's also, after OPT ends, there's sponsorship. So while we obviously can't guarantee that the employer that you find will sponsor you, we can support you to make that more likely to happen by helping you connect with employers, by giving you networking leads. It's really all about networking. It'll come down to that. So we can support you in that process. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yes, yes, it does. Thank you. Do we have any other questions, Sophia? Yeah. Oh, yes.
Oh, you can go ahead, Rolanda.
Thank you. Okay, I have one. So I ideally want to be in the daytime program. I did attend the evening information session last night, and it asked the same question, but we ran out of time, so I couldn't really get an answer. So I'm in Chicago, and I have concerns about housing. I did come to LA 4 times last year to get a feel for LA. To make sure I actually want to be there, to live there, because that part is important. It is very expensive to live in Los Angeles. Needed to know that up front. I'm glad I do. I was told last night that graduate housing, first come, first serve, get that. But once that's filled, is there like resources to point me in a direction of where to live so I don't wind up living somewhere strange or something? Because I just heard there's one side of Western I shouldn't live. That's all I know. I don't know anything else. So anything about that.
Thank you, Rolanda. I'll hand this question over to Dr. Elridge to see if she has any insight. Thank you so much.
You are not alone. You are not alone, Rolanda. This is an important concern for many students who are relocating here. And so we do have a brochure that we give to students that has information about places that many of our students live in the community nearby each of our campuses. So I'm going to sort through my files, see if I can find that and put that in the chat for you, or someone else may have that as well that they can drop in the chat for you. So yeah, our students do end up finding housing, nearby campus, and they make it work. They often find each other. So in the daytime program, I know we set up a Facebook group for our students that are incoming so that they can get to know each other, connect with each other, and they are already doing that for this coming fall, starting to connect. Hey, I'm looking for housing. Anyone want to live together? That sort of thing. And oh, I'm living in this building and it's great. And here's the information. We have openings. That sort of information is being shared already among our incoming students. So there is a nice community here, and we will support you in connecting with some places where students often live. And then if any other maybe alums who have been through this process want to share their tricks and tips as well, that would be helpful.
Yes, Kate, do you have any insight on student housing?
I think one of the things is LA is really expensive. And I think that. And then the more you look at places, you're like, oh, I could live in a shoebox for $4,000 a month. Lovely. So I think just remembering that. And then I also think, I think Shreya, you lived on campus one year, so I think she could possibly speak to that, but also talk to current students, talk to alumni of where they lived. Rolanda, I'm happy to give you my email. I was born and raised in LA. I have lived here on and off, but I lived in Seattle for 9 years before moving back here. And so definitely experienced the housing market and what that looked like coming back. So I think there are certain places in LA that are a little cheaper, and it's due to either crime stats or whatever that looks like. And I also think that depending on who you talk to, you're going to get a really different read based on kind of who they are and how they grew up. So I think there's a lot of tales told about LA and its dangerousness that I also think someone coming from Chicago, there's probably some other stories that are told about Chicago that you're like, actually, I don't find that part of town dangerous. Okay. So I think talking to people who live in certain areas, and I think it all comes down to commute too. So sometimes you can live further away and have a much bigger apartment for more affordable, and then you're on the freeway for an hour and 20 minutes minimum. Commuting, or sometimes you live really close and you pay a bit more, but it's kind of like, what is your sanity worth? Like, what are you paying for? And some people don't mind sitting in the car for really long amounts of time. So I think there's a lot of pieces that go into it. But I'm happy. I'll message you my email and feel free to reach out and I'll give you whatever resources I have.
Thank you so much for that, Kate. We have a question regarding Side D experience, since I know some of our panelists. So the student asked, could we hear more about the experience of entering Pepperdine Side D program after graduation? Were you able to balance completing hours with the workload? And I'll go ahead and start with Kate.
Completing hours. Okay. So, when I went on to the PsyD program, it was with the intention of not pursuing, my master's hours at all, which, we won't go into how much I feel that may or may not have been, a good or bad choice. I think, I have quite a few classmates who also did a master's program. Some of them did the Malibu master's program and continued with their hours. And then it's also a way that they currently make money while also being in the doctorate program. So I think it's a brilliant choice. I think for them and even for myself, time management is a big skill. And so you're really busy. And I think that's just the baseline of I think there's just a different mindset when it comes to both master's and doctorate level of it's not like undergrad. The expectation in classes is higher. The expectation you develop for yourself is higher. And I think as you balance life and workload and academic ambition and all of those pieces go together. Like my favorite phrase is you learn to selectively drop the ball. So you can't do it all. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons that you learn. I think it's completely doable. I have friends that I think she's like 100 hours away from being able to sit for her licensure because she will have obtained her hours. But the other piece is you can't usually simultaneously get doctorate hours and MFT hours just because of supervision and who signs off on the hours. So it's kind of you're doing your doctorate level hours at the same time as doing your master's level hours, at the same time as your academics and trying to have some semblance of a social life. So you're going to be really busy. My friend, I think like there isn't any day in the 7-day week that she isn't working. And that's a choice. She also has money in her bank account where I'm in a lot of debt. So I think it's just, picking and choosing. But I think it is completely doable. I also know people in the doctorate program that are licensed. And so they have a practice that they still maintain on the weekends outside of the doctorate program. So I know it is completely doable, but you will be busy. There is none of this like, oh, I have these 4 free days that no. So you find kind of what can give and take.
Thank you, Kate. We have a question from Deepool. So feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question.
Oh, hi, everyone. Can you hear me there?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay, guys. This is Deepool. I'm based in South Africa. So what I wanted to know, I'm going to give you an example here. There's like a board that you need to get registered with once you attain a master's in psychology, and that's a Health Professional Council of South Africa. So I don't know how it works with LA. Is there like a specific board that you need to get registered with?
You said a board, correct?
Yes, a board. In LA, is there like a board that you need to get registered with after getting a master's?
Dr. Elridge, yes, go ahead.
Yes, so it's the Board of Behavioral Sciences here in California, and each state has their own board, but here in California, it's the Board of Behavioral Sciences. So that's the board that our students get registered with in order to become licensed mental health practitioners here in California.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. Thank you for your question, Dipul. That was a great question. And I put the link also in the chat for anyone that wants more information about that board that Dr. Elridge mentioned. We also have another question. The student says, "Hi, everyone. Nice to see you here. My name is Clover, and I have a question. How to differentiate between having an interest in psychology and wanting to become a practitioner?" This student is also an international student. So happy to have you here with us, Clover. I'll hand this question over to Shreya to start off.
I think the journey to become a practitioner starts with an interest in psychology, although the path can be different. You can get in and decide that you want to do something completely different, or you can get in and realize that, yeah, this is it for me. For me, specifically, what I did was I took a year off before I applied for my master's. So after my bachelor's, I took a year off and I did an internship where I got a lot of exposure to the practicing side of the psychology world. And I realized that what I was learning was completely different from what was being practiced. And I think that made me realize that that drew me in a lot, and it just made this idea very concrete in my head that I wanted to practice this at some point in my life, which helped me select the path that I chose, which led me here. So I think it's a very individual journey for everyone, and I'm sure that anybody who's practicing here, Kate, Tasha, I think you guys will be able to help with that question as well. So yeah.
Thank you, Shreya. I'll also pass it over to Tasha.
Yeah, so I think kind of similar to what she just shared is I did a couple jobs before my master's program that were in the psychology field that helped me solidify my interest in it. I also think that there are a lot of different career paths that you can go towards after your master's. You don't just have to do a private practice like clinical setting. There just are so many different opportunities in psychology that aren't just clinically related through research or teaching or through kind of more behavioral ABA jobs. There's so many different avenues. So I think there were even people within my cohort that started the program and maybe realized they wanted to switch over to a different type of program, which is totally okay, or people that have graduated and haven't gone into more of the stereotypical clinical route. And so I think the more experience you get, the more you start to realize and fine tune what you're interested in.
Thank you so much, Tasha and Shreya, for sharing those wisdom with us. I'll hand it over to Dr. Dorn so we can go ahead and finish the session for today. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Sophia. Thank you for answering all those wonderful questions. Hopefully that was a lot of great information that was given to you. And even after this, if you still have any questions, you can still reach out to Dr. Eldridge or possibly the alums, or even to my office. So if you have any questions, like I said, you can reach out to us. At this time, we're going to just close things because we're sort of wrapping things up. And Sophia, if you could show yes. Okay. So like I said, if you have any questions, you can always contact our office by email, and that's gsepalum@pepperdine.edu. And our phone number is 310-568-5649. And there's the address because we're located at the West LA campus. And then we also have our LinkedIn group that you can also join, but that's usually for our alums. But if you go on LinkedIn, there's also our general GSEP LinkedIn, so that anyone can join that group. One thing that we always try to do with the roundtables is we have a survey. And with the survey, we want you to let us know how we're doing with these roundtables. If there's something you like, let us know. If there's something we can improve on, please let us know that too. So the first QR code is for survey evaluation. And if you click on that or use that QR code with your phone, you'll be able to get the survey. If you could also put the link for that in the chat, then that would be helpful too. In addition, we also like for our students, faculty, staff, and alumni to get involved with our GSEP activities. So if you look at the Get Involved QR code, then you'll be able to get another survey where you can select the different activities that you would like to be a part of. And we always ask for everyone to be a part of our activities. So if there are no other questions at this time, we thank you so much for joining us today. And we look forward to you coming back for another one of our Student Alumni Roundtables. And once again, if you have any questions, please reach out to us because we are here to help. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a wonderful day.